So today I'm here in a double function, and the presentation that I'm going to give is an introduction to the programs of the International Living Future Institute. I'm a co-founder and co-facilitator of the Living Future Sweden Collaborative, which is sort of a local collaborative organizing events and education about the Living Future Living Building Challenge and the other programs of the International Living Future Institute. The built environment sector no longer really has the luxury of being just less bad, and we've been speaking about this quite a lot today. And the Living Building Challenge and all the other programs of the Living Future Institute, they are built up in this upper right corner on the very positive social, cultural, and environmental impacts side, being truly sustainable. These are the programs from the International Living Future Institute. On top, we have the Living Building Challenge, then accompanied by the Living Community Challenge and the Living Product Challenge that I'm not going to talk about today because they're not so much towards the built environment. But then we also have a number of certifications with the Zero Carbon certification, the Zero Energy certification, a Core Green Building certification, and some labels, namely Reveal, Just, and Declare, as well as publication formats. Yeah, we call this one, it's time to step up to the Living Building Challenge. We built up here a little bit and show that the very bottom for us and for the International Living Future Institute is the Zero Carbon certification, which still is one stepping stone to the Living Building Challenge, and not to be mistaken for something that is easy or not highly demanding. Followed by the Zero Energy certification and then the Core Green Building certification. At that point, I should maybe mention that Core Green Building is not in the sense of core and shell as we have it in some other certification systems. It's rather as it really is the core of the Living Building Challenge, and takes the core imperatives. And then there is a Living Building Challenge Petal certification and the full living certificate of the Living Building Challenge as the top of the market, I should say. And with that one, I wanna start. And the Living Building Challenge 4.0 has been released about 2 years ago. And the Living Building Challenge, since it came around in 2007, had that title as being a challenge. And the challenge in the name is somewhat true, because all the aspects in the certification are somewhat of a challenge and pose demanding tasks to everyone in the projects, to the designers. But however, as every challenge actually has it, once it's completed, it's highly rewarding. And the Living Building Challenge works with the metaphor of the flower, and that is because nature is the ultimate measuring stick of performance. We have a living relationship with place, takes and gives food, it's beneficial, it's beautiful, it just gives and takes as much from the environment as itself can needs and can take up, but it also gives back to the environment. The philosophy behind the Living Building Challenge and the Living Building Challenge itself is actually not just certification system, but rather also a philosophy, advocacy tool, and a certification tool. And it's very holistic, it's measured by outcomes, it's validated by performance and not just predictions. There is a guide to collect advocacy, and it evolved through application and dialogue with project teams. I'm sorry for the problem here with the formatting. The Living Building Challenge has 7 petals. The petals namely are place, water, energy, health and happiness, materials, equity, and beauty. Unfortunately, I don't have the time to go further into this today, but I do want to mention that the Living Building Challenge, or the International Living Future Institute as such, has really tried also to implement all the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And I think it's relatively well and easily said that they are taken up by the Living Building Challenge once pursuing the Living Building Challenge. All these 17 cornerstones of sustainability are involved in the project. There are 4 different typologies that can and are certified with the Living Building Challenge. It is one, the new construction, new buildings. It is existing buildings, their interiors, and then there's also landscape and infrastructure. To date, there are about 760 registered projects around the world. That is not only for the Living Building Challenge, but for all the programs. Total certified to today are 146 buildings, and we can see that especially in the last few years, the interest in living buildings and Living Building Challenge, as well as the other ILFI certification tools, has increased drastically. As I said, 146 buildings are certified around the world, and this is really without doubt in any placement, in any climate. There is no too cold or too warm. Living Building Challenge projects can be realized everywhere. And when just looking onto the first 100 Living Building Challenge certified buildings, they're saving over the first 50 years of their lifespan, they're saving over 1 million cubic meters of 1 billion cubic meters of water. They're saving 133 million and somewhat more of oil equivalent. They're saving as much CO2 as now in the imperial system in 700,000 miles and more driven by an average car. And that is just to show what a building does actually as a harm. And we are only speaking about 100 buildings here, and these compared to normal buildings, this is the harm that a normal building would cause compared to a Living Building Challenge building. First up, I want to introduce the Zero Carbon certification, which is as I said before, a tool to reduce and fully have a fully balance of net zero carbon. They're the first Zero Carbon certified project and the first project under any of the ILFI's certification schemes in Europe is a Google office building in St. Pancras Square in London. And we're really glad to have companies, bigger companies, being interested in the Living Building Challenge and also the other certification schemes that come along with ILFI. Another certification scheme is the Zero Energy certification, and the principle is rather simple. The site energy consumption has to be equal to renewable energy generation. And I think that is a relatively simple principle, yet not met by very many buildings. And then the last one that I want to introduce, just some sentences more than I already said, is the core green building certification, which is taking up the core of the Living Building Challenge and really trying to provide like a middle step in between of just petal certifications or just partial certifications with ILFI's program and the full Living Building Challenge certification. There is always the possibility to find out more about the Living Building Challenge, and there is webinars, there is other materials available on living-future.org. I also highly recommend, just a few days left until it's starting, the Living Future Conference 2021. This year about inclusion and unity, and taking place online, so wherever you want you can just connect. Find out more on this link, livingfutureconference.org. And we just want you to get in contact with us if you're interested. There's social media, there's a webpage for the Living Future European collaboration. There are LinkedIn pages for Living Future Europe, and there is a LinkedIn page for also us in Sweden, the Living Future Sweden Collaborative. And yeah, there's a Twitter account and Instagram account that you can just tune in and follow us. Last but not least, I want to say that I'm really into the Living Building Challenge and the other programs that come along. So if there is any interest, if there is any request, I'm also happy to help and here for you to get in contact. Yeah, thank you very much for listening in.